Hello and welcome to the periodic table of awesome.
Well, hello there.
This is one small step for podcasting.
one small
One
voice
giant
recording.
review. We're going to talk about 3 seasons.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Poor Quinny, he didn't quite make it.
look at
Yes, Peter's like, who's done the homework? I'm like,
We kicked him out of the airlock prematurely.
oh, no.
no, that was in Event Horizon, which is a different space movie.
Or Battlestar Galactica, which was a different TV show.
A different
Or
TV
equally
show.
as stressful as and terrifying.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And also created by Ronald D. Moore. So, hey,
Look, like,
there's a link.
Fingers
Wow.
crossed we don't actually get ejected into space with the show tonight because we're having some mild technical issues.
No, it's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
We're, like, I've never known anything in the realms of NASA to ever go wrong in space due to technical
boy.
issues, which is a very niche
boy.
joke that only Peter and Jill are getting because Quinny hasn't seen that season yet, and it's going to make him just go, "Oh my god!" Like Quinny, I'm so excited for you because I know that you were in for such squeaky bum time. In like episode, like season 2 and 3 is just a whole bunch of puckered sphincter.
Oh, yeah.
Because season 1, let's be honest, had some pretty fucking moments.
This is what I'm saying. Like, season 1 was very much like, oh, this is a tense show, but then season 2 and 3 are like, holy fucking shit.
It's not a relaxing time at the television. I'll say
no.
that much.
This is what I was just saying to Peter. I've had a week. I've had a big week where I've been down in Tassie doing family stuff, and today was my day to decompress and ease off the pedal a little bit before going back to work tomorrow. And I said, I watched 2.5 or 3 episodes of this show, and Peter's just like,
Terrifying.
I'm only
Terrifying.
concerned for the spoilers because,
Right.
I do think that this is a show that we could very easily spoil, and the fun of it is the suspense. So spoilers will kill it for you.
So Quinny's going to be here for maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then he'll just have to then he's off.
go over here and play with the Transformers. And,
A slight format change this week, only because we had 3 seasons to get through. So we're going to break it down
Yeah.
and just kind of quickly
so
try
I
and
can
review.
chat very, very
Yeah.
conveniently about the first season.
Yes. Or unless we
And-
extend it out, it's just going to be like 45 minutes of the first season and then 12 minutes of season 2 and 3, which will frustrate
No.
everyone.
No, I don't think that's a fair thing. And because there are a lot of people, I'm guessing that a lot of them, our listeners, have done the homework or have been doing the homework over the past however many years.
Or we'll still have her. You could chat to the people who haven't done it or want to see it and are waiting to spoil, like if they just message you in the chat, and then we'll try to keep the chat spoiler free. Like, I mean, I don't know.
No,
I feel like
okay.
I feel like I'm the Russian cosmonauts in all of this. It's like, sure, just do it that way. Maybe what's going on over there anyway?
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. What I love about it is that it does have this sort of feeling of like progression and things are changing and moving and from where it starts in 1969 to where it is going. I love that there is so much change. So I'm keen to see where things go.
It's interesting the way that it does it, like in kind of decade skips.
Yeah.
And it gives it a nice way to tonally move across. And, I've got to hand it to the actors or the main cast who recur throughout the decade changes. I'm believing them. It's like, you were
believing
young. Oh, now you're middle-aged, even though
No,
kind of
I'm not believing it at all. I'm like, I'm sorry, but grey hair does not make you old.
Yeah,
I am
so-
believing some of them, and other of them I am going,
I'm just going to say, thanks, Jill. That's very helpful for me in the future. Right now.
So Joel Kinnaman with some grey hair is you're okay with, is that good aging or is that questionable aging?
Look, I'll tell you that the 90s fashion they put him in season 3 was very typical of the period and definitely made him look like an old man.
Are we going to call him Kinner Daddy now?
No.
Yes. I'm so mad you guys didn't tell me he was the star of the show earlier, because I would have watched this way sooner than Sunday week ago.
He's not the star. I'm going to contest that. He's a through line, but I don't think he's the star of the show.
He's billed first.
The star, yeah, well, I mean, the star was space all along.
I heard that wrong, so I thought you just said he was built first. And I'm like, yeah, she damn right he's
yeah,
built.
he was built.
Yeah.
His angry face does it for me. Oh my god. When Ed gets angry in the show, I'm like, yes. He gets angry a lot.
I was
because-
going to say, you really like this show, don't you? 'Cause
he's a boomer, so like he gets angry a lot.
I
he's a
love this.
boomer who's been to space.
In the same show, Jill will just be sitting there going, "Oh, I dropped the cup of coffee again on your files.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry."
And for those of you who spent a good 8 episodes trying to figure out where you'd seen Michael Dorman before, I'll just put you out of your misery now and point you back way back towards The Secret Life of Us, which was one of my
shit.
lockdown binges, and it was killing me. And I don't know why I didn't look it up sooner. But
Yeah. There's a few actors in this that you're kind of watching and you're like, "Oh, they seem familiar. Where are they?" And then you're like, "Oh." Like, yeah. It's
Is that the actor that plays Gordo?
yes.
Because
Mm.
I kept calling him Larry in my head because he
That-
looks like fucking Larry Hager. And it was doing my
Oh,
head
yeah.
because he was an astronaut and I Dream a Genie. And this guy's an astronaut. And I'm like,
Oh, shit, yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I love it.
Actually, now you mention that, I'm like,
Right?
yes.
I mean, look, we can't get looked down too much about
Anyway.
who's in this show because
Sure,
the cast
okay.
is absolutely massive, and
Mm.
and you know what? Not a letdown anywhere really. Like, well,
No.
kind of some places, but a majority across the board, everyone in this show is great, or at least interesting. Everyone has a good character, so well done
Mm.
for large cast work, Ronald D. Moore. So interestingly. Well, first up,
Mhm.
first big question really is who's done the homework? And Quinny, no, and
that's three hands
and
went
also
up
in
very
the
studiously.
chat, hopefully people are in there and they've done the homework. And yeah, me for once, finally have done it all.
I did the
It's because you
homework.
set the homework.
Yes, the feeling of superiority is priceless
Yeah.
here.
Dion was first. He got there first.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just so everybody know he got there first.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did the homework in 9 days. And I had never watched it before.
Well
And I'm
done.
very tired.
I was going to say, it's like, and I have neglected everything in my life for 9
Yeah.
days.
Pete and I literally finished the season 3 finale last night at 11 o'clock.
Oh, shit.
That's
We're
how
texting
tired-
each other.
Yeah.
Jill was like 10 minutes ahead of me.
As soon as an episode finished, like, fuck!
I feel,
Yeah, I binged the first 2 seasons a couple of months ago, and then I had to have a break.
Oh, I
Because-
do not blame you.
I got way too stressed out and had some bad dreams and lost a lot of sleep. So it actually took this talk to go, right, you have to get to episode 3 now. Because season 2 almost did me in. I'm like, I don't need that stress in my life.
I'm legitimately scared now.
Oh, season 2, Quinny, is so much more stressful than season 1.
Okay,
And
so
that finale, I was like bawling.
oh shit.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a bad time, but a good
Oh
time.
no.
But a
Don't
bad
stay
time,
up
but
late to
good.
watch this show. Just don't, because you need sleep and you need like an hour buffer between this show and sleep. So
But yeah,
just-
it's not a
love-
wind down.
love
Not a
that-
wind down.
I love
show.
that we're just selling it now. We've been selling it for 15
Yeah.
minutes straight of just like, it's really tense. Anyway, we're having a great time and we love it. But
Yeah.
Okay, so aside from it being really tense, which we'll talk a lot about, the great time about this show is that for me it feels like such a convincing alternate history.
I love
like
it
it is
for that.
super, super, super well done in kind of making you forget what's real and what's not real, and what is like in your in your memory of how
Yeah.
history has unfolded, and what is something that they're kind of making up for the show.
Yeah. Did
they do a
Kennedy have
lovely
that
job
affair
with
or
it.
did he not have that affair? Did
I
he-
don't
Well,
know.
Teddy
what's real,
Kennedy
what's
was
real.
not the president, so that was
Yeah.
not something that happened.
yeah.
So
What happened with Nixon? Hang on. What? Yeah. And all that kind of stuff.
It's extremely well done in that sense, from the production's design through to the supercuts that bring in every season that update you, that mix in real archive with deep fakes and and it's, if you like anything like that, it's super enjoyable. But the other thing I liked about it is that when I saw the thumbnails, I didn't watch it for ages because I thought it was going to be a history show.
It has a very
But it is
that
not.
sort of
It is a
scene.
sci-fi show because that is how they're altering history.
And it's
Should
interesting.
we also, just before we go too much further, do some kind of synopsis, because not everybody in the thing has done the homework.
So, okay, do you have anything there, Quinny? Do you have a synopsis?
I've got a synopsis. Do you have something musically appropriate to go behind the thing?
Why not?
In an alternative 1969, the world, and especially the United States, watch in shock as the Soviet Union successfully manages to land men on the moon before the USA does. With that defeat, NASA is presented with a renewed challenge in the space race that they never expected to face. Now, the Cold War rivalry takes on new intensity and grander ambition to reach far further than ever dreamed of, with more diverse resources than ever before. That seems like a pretty good... That's a synopsis of the starting point.
Yes, and that's the fun part of it, because it's literally, the premise of it is, it's the moon landing. But imagine if America wasn't the exceptional winners of that race and it was actually the Russians. And how does that affect it? And that's what I think it was successful in the way, because I understand the frustration, Pete, of you going, it looks too like it's a documentary style, because I feel like it based everything on already established real people. And it obviously does. It bases a lot of character, kind of not like actual characters, but character archetypes.
Oh, there are actual characters.
Yes, that's true. And that's where I'm talking about the blending.
History.
Yeah, the blending of it comes quite weird. Like, not all of them, but enough to be believable, or enough to go, well, that character is actually this real character from real history over there, but we changed their story quite significantly, which makes it actually work when they go on the sort of crazy sci-fi bent bits, because you're already
also
invested.
the sci-fi isn't particularly crazy. Like, it's sticking very close to hard science. So you're always going, okay, well, I could imagine this happening. And one thing I love about the show is the way that it's shot, the stock that they use, the look of it actually also fits at the time that it's set in. So the first half of the season 1 is very much shot like a 1960s production.
Yeah.
And then when you move into the 70s, it starts to get that 70s look, and even some of the stuff in the pod on the moon and stuff like that gets a bit of a look a little bit like Alien.
Wait, they went to the moon? You mean they actually got to the moon? That's a big spoiler there, Quinny.
Sorry for everybody who hasn't watched enough of the show.
I feel like we need to sell it a little bit. It was just an entire show about people not going to space, then it would be kind of hard to sell as a sci-fi.
One of the things that I loved about the way that they did that setup is it gave you a structure where you're like, hey, there's a thing that that already happened, but imagine if it happened slightly differently, but also some of the things happen better and other things happen worse, which they kind of focus more on the stuff that happened kind of better, like especially in season 1, where they expand the astronaut program rapidly and put more funding into it so that you get female and male astronauts, and people of color
more,
but more like rapidly. Like, instead of waiting until the 80s to do that, which they eventually did, they did it in the 60s. And how does that affect this story, and what could that have meant in the thing? And I like that they went in that quite nice way, is that they didn't do Star Trek Utopia. They just went, what did that mean in terms of history? Like, all the other shit still has to happen.
It was a lot more hopeful feeling. But the one thing that I didn't really get on board with a lot in the first season, it took me a while to get into, was the political cuts. Like, because the space program was about politics, and a lot of what NASA accomplished in the early days was based on the presidency. And I just found those elements so cynical. And I'm like, no, I just want a nice show about space. But then,
But then,
but then,
Well, I mean,
when shit hits the fan, I kind of forgot about all that stuff.
without
And
giving
also, I
too
mean,
much
when-
away. Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, but without giving too much away for Quinny in season 2, because you haven't got up to season 2 yet, it's
For
quite
fuck's sake.
it's quite refreshing to see NASA get out from under the shadow of government because
Yeah.
because of the fact that they've made a whole bunch of technological changes, they end up making more money than the government, and the government's kind of like, oh, you're richer than us.
That's
Which
cool.
is just a background, like a little bit of background level across the rest of the time. You're like, oh shit, NASA is the most, profitable business in America. If they'd done it that way, if they'd followed through, because they were the ones making all of the scientific discoveries and patenting things.
Which is cool. And I'm really looking forward to the 80s, mostly because I'm thoroughly enjoying the 60s, 70s kind of.
Because you were
vibe of
born
the-
there, you know what's going on.
Exactly. I'm looking forward to the big hair. I'm looking forward because the 80s was such a time of looking at technology with, excitement, and it was that thing of going, yeah, everything should be a digital watch, and you got to have your synthesizer music, and you got to have robots and everything.
Love the prevalence of the Apple Newton.
Oh, oh no, our technology has nearly killed people.
She heard Apple Newton and she just froze.
No, I was going to say that. But one of the really nice things about it is the way that it's like it's a sci-fi that starts in the past. But one of those things with this kind of branching history is that you do kind of start seeing the technology of the time changing a little bit, but not so much that it's like, oh, futuristic. It's just like, something that like we recognize and we maybe had 5 or 10 years later is just kind of appearing in the background of a scene. And it's like a little bit of a like, I don't feel like that should be there right now. But it's just that, things are moving a little bit faster, but it all feels really plausible because it's all stuff that we still recognize, particularly in season 2 and 3, which is, times that we either directly remember or, have a very strong link to that recent history. And I'm really interested to see where they now take it in season 4, which is, getting a lot
Early
closer
2000s.
to modern
Yeah.
era.
And that's an exciting time because, then you can start having, great music that we all love. No.
Well, I mean, I would love to see if they open season 4 with "Oops, I Did It Again." I mean, and it's quite fun actually watching. I mean, one of the things I think has been the most fun across, like in a broad sense, across all of them, is that it's a very tense season, and they usually end with a climax. But one of the most and wonderful and successful things is that they do a post-credit scene at the end of the final episode, which is a teaser for the next season, which is the time shift one, and you have to try to pick it, and you're like, how far? What are they doing? Oh my god! Oh my god! And they always just give it a bit where you're like, what does that mean? Yeah.
With a killer soundtrack.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. Oh,
Yep.
some of the music, even just in that first one, I was just like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, right.
Yeah.
We're getting too out of track. It's already been half the show, and haven't even really started talking about each of the seasons. Wait.
Well, no, I feel like because talking about each of the seasons is spoilery. So I think we should, dumping this stuff at the beginning is fine.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine with
We're
that.
just talking generally about it.
And also the whole thing of saying, okay, should people go and watch it? Like, because that, I mean, well,
That's the question.
That is the
Quinny,
question, but it's
you
also not.
probably-
Oh,
He just hasn't watched it quick enough. Like, I mean, he's in regular timeline, Quinny, and we need accelerated timeline, Quinny. We needed Quinny months ago
Need
to get on board.
Quinny to
with
have a
this.
season finale and jump 10 years.
Yeah.
where's he going to go?
Yeah. So that's the thing that we were missing here. It's more if you want to review, like a quick review of it, should you watch For All Mankind? Absolutely. It's great. It's good TV. Mainly I found it was good TV because it treated every character with respect to their character. And it gave us interesting things that I think everyone has something in the show that they can like put a hook into, or would able to attach to, because every character is different. They follow a lot of different cause and effects. They go across intergenerational timelines, and it's got something in there that's kind of a little bit for everyone, and kind of a reminder to be like, hey, that if we all fucking just work together, things would be a lot easier on Earth.
Yeah. And I do sometimes wonder, like, because there's elements of this that reminded me of elements of things like Watchmen and everything, which is the question of when you've got a common enemy or a common, thing to fight against, it does, for some god awful reason, tend to bring out the most creative, the most, driving force in what we do. And I mean, Watchmen, it's, alien, space squid or whatever, in an effort, sorry for spoilers for anyone who's not read a fucking 30-year-old comic. But in this one, it is about the fact that you've lost a particular race gives you the impetus to go faster and harder and stronger. And
which is really the antithesis of everything NASA does, because they've had to cancel their latest launch twice already due to technical issues.
But I mean, if, like, after watching this show, you have to understand.
I don't want them to rush. I really don't want them to rush.
I mean, that's at least something they took from the real NASA, which was like, NASA has had a few bad things happen, and they can pinpoint exactly where that is when you push them too hard, and they're kind of like, there's a reason for that. Like, we can create miracles of people who are like literally a million miles away in space by making them rejig something. But also, if you don't have everything right on this side before you go, like, you can't do it anyway. It's interesting.
Well, and that's actually something, one of the plot points that I really thought was interesting and I enjoyed from season 1, which is a point where there is a something goes wrong. There is a catastrophic failure, and the questioning of why that failure happened, which I found really fascinating, because it's this idea that we can engineer people into a pod living on the moon or whatever, but there's still an issue with politics, and there's still an issue with cutting corners and shit like that. And I was like, yeah, right.
Well, there's a question for everyone who has watched it, not you, Quinny, to stew over, which is, who's the real enemy in each season? Like, in season 1, the enemy is obviously the Russians, but in season 2, that changes slightly. And in season 3, I even have an opinion on that. But I mean, you can just stew on it.
I don't even know if you can really call it enemy. Like,
oh yeah, 100%.
It's rivalry. It's rivalry.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Rob hated the plot line about the political machinations. I'm sorry, Rob, but I disagree. I think it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah. Anyway, like, all right. Should we? We've seen the trailer for season 1. Should we talk about season 1? We'll get stuck into it.
I think we have been talking about season 1.
No, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
spoilers.
It's like specifically for season 1. Yeah.
Sure.
Mrs. Robinson plot.
It focuses very heavily.
You're not up to that yet, Quinny.
On Joel Kinnaman's Ed Baldwin, the top astronaut, and Gordo, one of the other top astronauts, and them being the absolute king swinging dick.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of that in the
cool guys who eventually get outclassed and outpaced by all of the amazing women that come into this show, which I am totally down for. Including my favorite, which is Molly Cobb.
Oh yeah.
Who gets only Quinny? She only gets better. Like, there's one for you. She only gets cooler, I've got to say.
She is based on real life airwoman Geraldine Cobb.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, who never got to be an astronaut, which in real life, it's sad.
No.
But like, it's focused. I love that it focuses on these, astronauts who are like, that's their thing. They're the only ones who can do it. And then suddenly it's thrust into this. Actually, because Russia's pushing the envelope in this. Russia reaches the moon first. Russia's the first person to have a woman in space. And America starts ramping up, to try
purely
and
one-upmanship.
Yeah. Just to try. At the time, they just try to keep pace. Like, Russia is the leader in this field, in this series. And it's interesting watching it from an American side about them just trying to keep pace with it. And then also matching their private lives and the cost that it has on families and relationships in the background, and then political intrigue. As a side note, while you're watching these people do basically Top Gun school.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's true.
And I fucking hated all of the dude astronauts. Like Ed Baldwin's a dickhead. Gordo is just a terrible man. And then eventually it all starts coming home to roost for them. And I'm like,
Hang on, Pete has opinions on that.
No, go for it. I want to know. Tell me.
There are character arcs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people are terrible and then they become less terrible.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Because, you know, they make an effort and realize that they've been dickheads.
I know.
Everybody is very easy to empathize with, though. Like, I had no problem getting on board with the characters. I mean, some characters I straight out disliked, but that was because they did their job really well.
Yeah.
I mean, look, and I like having some characters that you can sort of you start going, oh, I love Werner von Braun. He's great, and that's
what
like
a lovely guy. Oh,
he's Nazi. Oh, terrible.
Based on actual real life Nazi.
Yeah,
von Braun.
Yeah, and I mean, if you knew your history going in, you're like, oh no, he's going to be a bad guy.
Yeah, and you know, Margot, who I absolutely, I was really connecting with in the first season, and that changes later. But you know,
arcs.
Oh no, I will not stand Margot. There's a contentious one for people who've seen season 2 and 3. I am not
sorry,
team Margot.
Want to shout out to the chat who asked the question: is it more interesting than Ad Astra? And thankfully, Doc Forrest has swung on in with. Anything is more interesting than Ad Astra.
Ad Astra is terrible.
Ad nauseum.
Ad Astra is okay. But this is better than Ad Astra.
Dion, we had to record that review twice and it was bad both times.
Fucking hell. Am I the one who forgot the water on the moon? For fuck's sake, just let it go. Fred was worrying, Ad Astra, what a great podcast. We had to record twice because I forgot to press record.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's an old show. That's in the archive. That's in the oubliette.
Yes. This show is good. So yeah, season 1 we get introduced to all the characters and introduced to the setting. We get into and there's some great fucking moments. The moment that they the Americans first get to the moon is one of those fucking tension moments where you're like.
But they still kept the core team of Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins. So, that was cool. They kept those guys in there. But that's the only time you ever see them. They did their thing and then they were out. Yeah.
Which made sense because build up other characters that you can do what you want with.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good. Like, first season had a good arc, I think, because America had lost the race to the moon. Then they wanted to be the first people to get a base on the moon, and to figure out a way of it being sustainable. And I thought that provided all the great pieces of tension that you could want for, in like a character sort of seasonal arc, including the faceless Russians. You never really get to see the Russians because it's always kind of like, they don't have a humanizing factor. And I really love that is a consistent theme for a lot of it up until somewhere in season 2, which I will not talk about.
Feel free to just kind of talk about it because I really...
yes. I don't know. Everyone's in there just like,
and then
hi,
move
Bob,
into a
I
spoiler
know.
section and then have a free-for-all.
Yeah,
sure.
I think that's
so that anybody who is listening and anyone in the chat who hasn't watched it can opt out because I would really say it's really worth watching and spoilers will make the experience less fun.
Yes.
Yeah. I think this is a great way of doing it because essentially we're giving you the option as to how much you want to get spoiled or how many seasons worth of stuff you want to get spoiled for.
Sure.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, because we're not going to hold, I have to tell you about my nightmares, so we're not going to hold back.
Oh, same.
Jesus.
I thought Peter was weird for having dreams about it until I had a dream about it. I'm like, oh, fuck.
Did your dream involve a Black Panther eating somebody's head? Or
no. In space, no one can hear you scream because of physics.
Ah!
Yeah. Not even.
Science.
Yeah. It's like, well, that person's just never around anymore forever.
Okay.
Bye.
Are we rating based on 3 seasons
Answer.
Yes.
or
yes.
each season?
No. Don't make more math happen.
Mm.
Unless you
gonna
want to
have
rate
to
each
do-
one individually, and then you have to give Quinny the average that he needs.
Yeah, that's
for
what
his
I'm
math.
about to do.
Sure.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay.
I'm just going to pick one number.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, we can I can just put the fucking numbers in. It's fine. You can do
Yeah.
season 1, season 2, season 3 if you want.
I'm going to go just to help get it starting off. I'm going to give it 90 because I have enjoyed every season and the way it ramps. And sure, there are bits that I'm disappointed with, and I kind of had a bit more fun in the first season and the second season, and third was a bit but I'm invested with everyone now, and I think it's actually really great television and a great reminder of that if you just work fucking together, you can accomplish amazing things and stop putting your own egos ahead of human expansion and achievement. There you go.
Yeah. The Selfish Pricks Club, as Molly Cobb says.
Absolutely. Season 3 is the Selfish Pricks Club.
Yeah. I am giving an average of 87 because I rate the first 2 seasons higher than season 3. Gotta say,
Okay.
Mars was a little bit boring.
Shut up, spoilers.
That's okay. I know they go to Mars.
It's literally on the poster.
Yeah, I've seen the posters. I know where we're at. It's okay.
They even said it in season 1. It's not really a spoiler when they're like, we're going to go to the moon, and then we're going to go to Mars, and then we're going to go to Saturn, and then we're going to go to the galaxy. It's like, that's the 5-year season arc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, like the drama in season 3 was so contrived and was starting to get a bit soap opera that I was like, I'm a little bit out.
Oh, no.
I'm a little bit out, guys. And I'm like, and you want to do another, 3 seasons after this? I'm like,
Oh,
not if
interesting.
it's going to be this dull.
They've got to get
Oh.
rid of some of the cast.
A lot of the cast are going to have to eventually die out.
Yeah,
Just for
well.
age.
Yeah, they're not even going to be like age appropriate to be doing space
Yeah,
travel.
there's no
anymore.
reason. There's no way they get cleared for flight. NASA would be like, you're 86. You're not an astronaut anymore.
Yeah, sorry, Ed, as you're going to retirement home.
I'm
I don't
an
know if they could
astronaut.
put fucking William Shatner on a spacecraft.
Again,
That
they
was
could-
in like the upper stratosphere. He was not
Yeah, I
in
know. It
space.
wasn't really. He went weightless for 20 seconds and
Yeah.
probably felt sick, and that was it.
I do that coasting over speed bumps. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to feel 0 G, get into my car.
Predakenga makes a very interesting point that we will come back to.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. It makes it sound like he didn't get to season 3 yet, but all right.
So sorry. Okay, if we are going to reference it,
ratings.
Peter
ratings.
Yeah,
still
I
hasn't
wanted to do
he's
the
quietly
ratings, but-
waiting to.
I basically agree with everything Jill said, and I also came to 87, but I didn't do math. That's just the number that I came up with. Season 3 didn't get me as much, and I think it was partly because after season 2 I just couldn't, but partly for all of the reasons Jill said. Like it just
Yeah.
the action didn't quite hit the same in season 3. And also it gave me nightmares. So I can't go higher than 87 for something that makes me literally lose sleep. But the fact that it made me lose sleep meant that it achieved its goal. It's a very mean television show. Like it does not want you to be happy.
No.
This show.
Not a lot of happy
You can't
endings.
because it's like, well, that's like it's achieved its goal of making me extremely stressed. Well done. And I'm fully aware that it's fake. Like I am fully aware that these characters are made up and none of these things have happened. And yet I lost sleep.
Oh my God. But if someone said to me, hey, you want to go to space? I'd be like, nope.
Yeah.
But I've
fine
always
here.
had that's been a long running fear of mine. I couldn't see Gravity at the cinema because I was just like, no.
I like
no.
atmosphere.
Yeah.
I'll keep atmosphere, thanks.
Well, it's cold out here. There's no kind of atmosphere.
I'm all alone, more or less.
More or less. That's kind of season 3 of.
Oh God, really? Fucking hell.
A little bit because it's just a bit like we're on Mars, so far away from everything forever.
Right.
Yeah. When they all start to realize, oh, oh shit, the moon was a cakewalk compared to fucking Mars.
Right.
Yeah, our next supply is 7 years.
Oh, Jesus.
Bye. It's like fucking hell.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna rate it based on the episodes that I've seen, which at the moment I really think it's a really spectacular show. Like the effort that it goes to in trying to set a period and give a feeling, the technicality of it. When you're on the moon, I firmly believe they're on the fucking moon. I know they're not. I know that it's in a a studio somewhere, much like the actual moon landing. But
They just
I
use
was
the
watching
same.
the show and I'm like, no wonder people think that it could have been filmed. Like, this looks pretty immaculate.
yeah, I know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Kubrick's just like, oh, I did this decades ago.
Yeah.
had a lot of
yeah,
practice, it's fine.
they had the volume when Kubrick was doing it.
Wow.
Anyone who is also, interested in the science part of the sci-fi, they actually have a podcast that breaks down the science from each episode, which I have not listened to, so I cannot recommend. But I kind of like that they have that separate element.
I'm really interested that you brought that up because I'm really kind of fascinated in it. But I'm having the same thing as what was the Greg McLean movie about the crocodile that they did?
Rogue.
Where they made this ridiculously, stupidly large crocodile that was the rogue crocodile that was attacking people in the Northern Territory. And it wasn't until I was talking to him and he's like, oh yeah, we based that on a real crocodile, which was bigger, but we couldn't make it work. But it was actually caught and it was bigger, than the one they put in the movie. And that's what I sort of feel like listening to that podcast about the science. You'd probably be like, this was a very terrifying, intense scene. And a scientist would break it down and be like, oh no, this is way more terrifying.
It's much worse.
Yeah.
This whole thing where they managed to make an atmosphere scrubber, they couldn't have done that. And they would have just slowly suffocated about 5 minutes. You would have been like, oh shit, okay, right, yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
That's my fear of that. But thank you for the podcast recommendation. I may go.
Do you know what it's called, Pete? Or is it like...
It's For All Mankind.
It's called For All Mankind, the official
Yeah.
podcast.
Okay, cool. I will
Just, I believe it does break down, particularly the first season, it does break down the science. So if you nerd out about that kind of stuff, it might be fun to listen, to watch an episode, then listen to the podcast that breaks it down.
I'm fascinated by the science, but I mean, as much as anything else, I'm watching it for the filmmaking. As I said, I love the fact that they change the style of the cameras. They change the way they shoot it, depending on the decade that they're in. And yes, the fashion around the house and everything, changes, and that's what you'd expect. But when I'm looking at it thinking, that's a 70s lens. That's, the amount of bloom on it, the amount of light and everything like that. That's a 70s lens, and that's fucking cool.
My favorite thing is like when you see something floating in space and then it zooms in, but it kind of like autofocuses and then it will like drop out a little bit because they got too close. Like that shit's just really cool to look at.
Well, I remember Ronald D. Moore was doing that a bit of that back in Battlestar Galactica. And once again, we must remember Ronald D. Moore has got some pretty fucking good pedigree in making science fiction TV shows and trying to ground it in some feeling of reality. And I think one of the reasons that Battlestar was as successful is because it wasn't Star Trek. It wasn't kind of utopian sci-fi or anything like that. It was like, here are grunts and people who have politics and have problems who just happen to be in space. And that's kind of what he's doing here. Just it's a little bit closer to home. I also think, and I know that we're going to go to a clip, it reminds me a little bit of The Man in the High Castle.
See, I still haven't watched that, but yeah, another alternative history.
Yeah.
I think the difference between this and The Man in the High Castle for me, well, two different main differences, is that Man in the High Castle kind of had that kind of supernaturally kind of element to it, but also just because of the period in history, it didn't feel real in the way that this feels real and makes you forget in moments what's real and what's not real.
Like
just because
Portals in
the
the 40s
proximity of the
doesn't really-
timeline to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, the science fiction in this is that we could get enough people to work together to make something happen.
Yeah,
instead
like
of
it's almost science fact,
yeah.
honestly.
Yeah. But like I said, to me, it feels like a sci-fi that starts in the past. And I've never seen that before, like
No.
a sci-fi that starts in our past specifically. And I think that, is very cool and very appealing if you're interested in sci-fi. And if you're interested in history, it's also a fun watch because you kind of get to do I know what they're referencing and I know how they've changed that. And I've recommended it to my mum because she is like a nerd for the history of that period. And I think that she'll get a kick out of how they've tinkered with it.
Nice. Dee, let's have us a clip and
You
we'll
Well,
do some.
the clips that I have are, the trailer for season 2. I just want to make sure that season 1 was covered off. I mean, there's so much more to talk about that they do touch on in season 1. But then I have something that's very much a spoiler, and then there's a trailer for season 3. So I'm just going to be careful about that now. But look, I'll go play the quick trailer for season 2, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about that, and hopefully not, ruin it for Quinny.
We're gonna roll it for 20.
We're concerned. The Soviets might be trying to introduce a new weapon.
We let this go, it would set a dangerous precedent.
Welcome to NASA. You are, as of this moment, officially astronaut candidates.
Someday people will write the history of this time.
This is Jamestown Actual. 10 seconds, mark.
They will say that during the coldest depths of the Cold War, America inspired the world.
I give you Pathfinder. It's 3 times as powerful as our current shuttles.
I'm tired of talking about the good old days. Don't y'all miss it?
With this weapon, they could drop munitions on any point on Earth.
The president wants you to put together a new mission.
I shouldn't go.
You don't think I noticed the look in your eyes at every launch? Hoorah.
I have here the rules of engagement for use of force on the moon.
That's steps away from nuclear war. Target lock.
Once we do this thing, there's no going back.
This program has the power to change the world.
You need to remind them of Apollo 11. We came in peace for all mankind.
Ready to fire.
We need to live up to that.
That's so
Season 2, or as I like to call it, guns in space.
Bad idea. Bad idea.
Guns in general are just a
Terrible.
bad idea.
Come on, like if season 1 was one of those things about, oh my god, here is the push to get out there and to reinvigorate the American exceptionalism, or the enemy in that one is the Russians. This is what I said. Season 2 is the enemy is the conflict between a political narrative and a scientific exploration narrative that's running currently for NASA. And that's what
There's no enemy. It's just 2 people super paranoid about the other.
We know this, but that's the ridiculous point of that season, which is like we're putting guns on the thing, and everyone's going, "This is
we need to do it first, or they're gonna do it."
Yeah, this is
Like
literally-
that's just the argument throughout every season.
It's literally
We have to
like,
do
it's
it
a
now. They're gonna
scientific
do it.
station. Yeah, it's a scientific station. We need to focus on it being about science, and then it's like,
The
no, you
old
need guns. What?
Mexican standoff.
Yeah.
That's the one podcast I want to listen to, because how the fuck did they make a gunfire in space when there is no oxygen to ignite it?
Look,
That's why they were special space guns.
yeah, space bullets.
Right.
Yeah, but I want to know how to make a special space gun.
Yeah, you just have to put a little bit of
Listen to the
oxygen in the
podcast.
bullet.
You have to what?
You have to put a bit of oxygen in the bullet. I don't know. I'm fucking making shit up.
Just
How the hell
considering
would I
this
know?
doesn't work.
How would
That's
I
not how
know?
it works.
Am I a scientist? Am I a gun scientist? No.
If your bullet has a little bit of
A gunologist.
a bit of explosive, and the rest of the space is packed with just enough oxygen, and it was properly sealed, it could combust enough, but it probably wouldn't fire them very fast.
I mean, yeah,
know.
what you need is a super fast projectile. It doesn't necessarily have to be an explosion that sets
So you
it
need a
off.
rail
Maybe they
gun.
figured out how to do it mechanically.
You need rail guns. That's what you need.
They should have just had rubber bullets. You don't actually need to fucking kill someone on the moon.
Sure.
No, you just need to fire things hard enough to fling them.
Yep. And look, come on, like I've got to say, out of the 3 seasons of TV that For All Mankind has made so far, season 2 is both one of the most tense seasons of television, but also the most exciting and has some of the most interesting storylines that go through it. Like it's literally if 1 was a setup, 2 is literally the payoff. It's the second season of fucking amazing. And then the third one
and
is
you
like,
know what?
oh.
They could have taken the easy way out, and they could have covered Apollo 13. They could have covered Challenger, and they could have covered Columbia, and they did none of those disasters. They made their own.
Yeah. They made moon disasters. Oh
yeah.
Hooray for moon. And like I saw that earlier in the chat, we were saying High Bob from season 1, which is great, like space madness. This time round, the Jonestown has, been expanded. There's more than
it's a colony
12
now.
people there, and it's gone really high. And you get these are the things that I really liked about it. It made the idea of being on the moon permanently a thing, and then made sure that the rest of the characters were getting their own narratives fleshed out. Astronauts that have sort of been past their prime who are going away now. So what does it mean for them? Newer astronauts who have to do certain things, or people who've been up, now it's a bit casual. What does that mean for everyone? Is it a rite of passage now? And then what happens with the interactions between the other colonies and stuff that's on the moon? Because it's not just America.
Is it Jonestown or Jamestown?
Jamestown.
I was going to say, because Jonestown is the massacre.
Jamestown was like the first American colony.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My bad. I'm bad at American history. I know that Australia's first colony was Shanestown.
And we made it to season 1 of this show.
And we made a billabong. We put a jumbuck next to it.
Yep, I went there. It wasn't nice, wasn't pleasant, but I went there.
Oh dear. How far are we going to get in here? Jill,
Just
Peter,
get into
us.
it. Have fun.
In order to tell you about my nightmares, we have to talk about the biggest thing that happens at the very end of season 2, and it is a massive spoiler, Quinny. Massive
well,
spoiler.
then, look, I'm happy to take my ears out and play with some toys.
Just do that.
Yeah,
Do
maybe
that
just do
because
that
it
for
is
a
a
few
massive
minutes.
spoiler, and we don't want to do these things. In fact, the whole clip that I could play is a massive fucking spoiler. So I'm.
And you can also play that clip because I
clip
will
is
just
a
take my ears
spoiler.
out.
The clip is a spoiler, but it's not like the.
I'll take my
season
ears out and I
finale
won't
spoiler.
see it, so it's
Take
okay.
your ears out now.
Sure.
Take your ears
And-
out now. Come on, Quinny. We'll wave at you when you're ready to come back.
Okay,
Yeah,
right.
fair
Okay, thank
warning
you,
to the
everybody else.
chat. as
You have
well.
been warned, listeners.
Yep.
You have been warned.
Oh, wait, hang on. I gotta
Give
put the
me
spoiler alert
5
up. There we go.
minutes. Skip forward if you have to, because fuck me, this fucked me up so badly.
Oh, no.
Because
my
I
God.
already have weird space fears, anything to do with being in space alone and unprotected has always freaked me out. It's like
Wait, Quinny,
that
are you on the
horrible
get
movie
get
with
your
the
ears off, Quinny.
boat.
There
Okay,
you
I'm
go.
going by.
Jesus fucking Christ! All right. Holy shit!
That
was
movie
that
with the
tense?
boat and the storm and Marky Mark, where at the end of the movie he's just in the ocean with nothing, gives me nightmares. I just can't handle that stuff. So I'm sorry, Tracy and Gordo.
Oh
my God.
But they saved.
Aside from the fact-
everyone.
Aside from the fact that I couldn't get to sleep after the episode because I just I couldn't get the images out of my head.
Yeah.
then I had horrible nightmares about it.
Oh no.
And I couldn't watch the show anymore because it was just horrendous.
Well, I mean,
And that is fair enough.
but how were you with the episode before, like the episodes before that, which is when the Russians start shooting at the fucking base?
No. I was like just panicking the whole time. I'm pretty sure I got off the sofa and I was like, oh shit. Oh shit. Oh no. Oh, this is no good. This is no good. And then there's like literal like warfare happening within the colony with everybody with their fucking guns.
Yep.
And then the nuclear reactor gets a
then-
bullet through it. I'm
yeah,
like, oh,
Of
fucking
course
great.
that's going to happen.
Why is there
also-
plutonium on the moon?
Absolutely.
Who thought
Well, that's
that
what they
was
were
a good
wondering.
idea?
And that
Who
was
thought
what
that was a good idea?
that was what this whole thing was, between a military application which was like pushed by the government versus the exploration mechanism that NASA was
Yeah.
trying to do. It's like when it became a that's why I thought was the interesting thing. Like the enemy in this is politics versus science.
Yeah,
You know.
and paranoia.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because like a lot of the antagonism that happens in this is based on pure paranoia. There's no actual threat at any moment except for dying when there's no air in space. Like,
Yeah. Look,
My other issue also is that I was so on board with Gordo by the end of like season 2. I
Yeah,
was like,
he
you know
had a
what?
great-
He's come good.
he had a great character development. I knew he was going to die because once you put someone back into space that has been out of the game for 10 years, that's a red flag.
After
Like,
having a nervous breakdown in space.
yeah.
yeah, like that
A bit-
was
yeah,
not a
yeah,
good idea. And Ed, what the hell were you thinking? But
Well-
also like for poor Deke as well at the end of season 1, where I'm like, yeah, that guy's gonna die.
Yeah. I mean, look, that's what I said. Like, season 2 was a great season arc. Like everything kind of important about it came through,
Yeah.
and it had that redemption thing of, I think it was said earlier, Daniel Poole comes out to do the handshake to re-knit that bond after we could have
Yeah.
quite easily started World War III on the moon, which is literally something that I believe would happen. Like,
Yeah.
somehow
Well,
in the future.
the Apollo Soyuz was a real
Yep.
docking mechanism. I don't know what you
Yeah.
call it, thingy that happened,
Yeah.
and they did the handshake. But in history, it was Deke that was on board the Apollo that did the handshake, which
Yeah.
is like really cool.
And I
Because like
mean-
his whole story arc of the atrial fibrillation was like a real thing, but then he did get medical clearance and he was on board the Apollo, which is cool.
And like that's another thing that I really like that they talk about. Like even in geopolitical terms, when East met West in the show, it still made it interesting to figure out how they worked together when they were surrounded by so much strange and aggressive behavior towards each other. It's like, how do these people of science want to work together to solve the problem, even though they're hamstrung by the fact that their governments, they're fuckheads.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that was good.
Can we
was good.
bring Quinny back?
Sure, we finished that one now, so we've got a wave.
Yeah.
But I mean, Quinny, he's on his phone, and we don't
I mean-
care about his phone.
Sorry.
I
Don't
also
mind me.
want to talk about
And
Danny, but I
then,
think we
holy
can do
shit,
that without doing
I
any major
didn't
spoilers.
think that they would actually show the cheese cave on the moon in season 2.
I mean, they hinted at it in season 1, let's be honest. Like when you find the ice cave, surely the cheese cave is just around the corner.
Yeah, so unfortunately,
And then there's the CRISPR cave at the bottom that's still got juice from all of the vegetables.
Gross.
no, sorry to disappoint you, Quinny. In season 2, they do not find cheese on the moon.
Cracking toast, though, Gromit.
Yeah, look, season 2, great follow up. Some parts, not great. Like, you can't have gold out of everything. I think there was a comment earlier about the space influence or astronaut influencer kind of storyline was a bit
Mrs.
weird.
Robinson.
Kind of.
We won't spoil that for you, Quinny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have issues. Like one of the things that make me sad about the series is Danny's whole arc at the moment, because it's just kind of got to the point where I'm like, somebody look after that kid. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, man.
what is wrong with you people? And also, like, who is in charge of inventory space opioids? Because Like, I just don't believe that any kind of like.
That's a season 3 spoiler. Come on.
That's okay.
Well, no, I'm not saying things in a spoiler way. I'm just saying who is in charge of keeping inventory of the space opioids.
They needed, yes, but they also needed to.
And who is prescribing Oxy for cut?
They needed to reference the opioid crisis.
It's Oxycontin.
But I have an explanation for that.
I know it's a reference to the whole.
No, I have an
opioid
explanation
thing.
as to why there's no oversight for that kind of thing, because you got to remember, and Quinny, maybe you just want to. Look, there are two distinct things going
Not
on
our
here.
fault.
Yeah, there's two distinct things going on here. You have the private industry, who have all the bells and whistles and everything that anyone could ever want. That's kind of thing, like, and then you have the government agency, which is kind of working with pure science, push the limits of what we can do, but on the cheapest way, because they're focused on science. Whereas the other one, they have everything, and so they don't have any oversight, but they've got all the funding and everything, and that's also a problem.
Oh, Helios. Yeah.
Helios, yeah.
I'm also going to bet if you lined it up historically with when in America misprescribing Oxy became a big issue, it would probably
be the 90s.
Line up because it's,
It's all right. You can come back, Quinny.
It's all right,
I don't
Quinny.
think what Dion said was very spoiler.
No, but I just didn't want to, because I didn't want him to get, I don't want him to know anything at all. I'm going to walk into this and be like, holy shit.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
know, and I'm sorry.
Especially that one part in season 3, which is so fucking tense, because like the two spaceships, and then there's a roll, and it's like,
we'll have to talk. We'll definitely have to talk about that in a minute. But like, anything else you want to discuss about season 2, or should we?
I kind of get the feeling from you guys talking that season 2 is kind of your peak season.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah.
Right. So season 1's you build up. It's the one that sets the ground and kind of tells you where you're at. Season 2 is where you go and you play.
And Jill, was I right about not watching that specific episode right before bedtime?
Yeah, and did I do it anyway? Yes.
Jill's like, I'm up to this bit, and I don't know if I should stay up and watch it. I was like, no, you need to sleep. You should not do that. She's like, it's only an hour, and I'm like, you'll be awake for more than an hour. Like,
I thought it was only an hour. It turned out to be an hour and 20-minute finale, and it was very crucial to a lot of the story, and it was very stressful and very traumatizing, and I cried, and but I did it. Don't regret it.
Yeah, season
I'm
2
impressed
is
by
kind
the
of
crying.
So much.
Yeah,
so much.
Season 2 is kind of a nice balance of action and still intrigue. So Quinny, I highly recommend season 2. If you enjoyed season 1, get on to season 2, and you don't have to wait.
Can you maybe bring it for me sometime?
See a clip? Do you want to
sure.
just have a clip? Do a cheeky clip, the season 2 clip.
Do you want to do the season 2 clip or the season 3 trailer? Like, I mean, Quinny, you're gonna have to shut your eyes.
How much longer do we want to keep talking about it?
Well, I mean, I think we've already talked about the tension of the scene that we were talking about. So we'll leave it to.
So let's
to
do
them.
the season 3 trailer.
We're banging on a bit, I know, but we've got one more season to get through. So let's go to the season 3
Yeah.
trailer and then come back and do season 3 and then try and get out of here.
Okay.
There's a primal urge in all of us to explore.
Some say private citizens have no business in space exploration. I emphatically disagree.
We have a historic opportunity. The first mission to Mars.
NASA's joining Helios and the Soviets. A three-way race to Mars.
We're not going to come in second place again to anyone.
We're talking about discovering life on another planet. It'll change our concept of who we are, where we're going.
Black holes.
The massive dust storm has obscured both landing sites. Years, even decades of planning comes down to this moment.
We're landing blind. Brace for impact.
Being first is what it's all about.
This is the resource that can support large-scale human colonization.
You want to tell us where the water is?
The survival of my crew depends on it.
a common goal, there is nothing we cannot achieve.
It's only the beginning.
Who doesn't love a little bit of Soundgarden?
We've talked about the representation in this in terms of women and people of color being involved in the plot in a way that they wouldn't have been if this were a straight historical fiction. But we haven't talked about the queer representation in this yet, because it is a big part of the story, and it's a big part of a couple of the key characters. And it's one of the things that Dion was talking about, where some things get better, other things seem to get much worse.
I wrote the ticker that says speculative fiction deems lack of bigotry unrealistic. So that's one thing that I kind of wish had changed pace along with like equal women's rights.
Yeah.
And it was sorely overlooked.
I must admit that, like, when you are looking towards a future, and you are kind of, and maybe that was the thing that Ronald and his co-writers and everything were trying to say, is that in the race towards technological future, if it is driven by the military and driven by unhealthy driving forces, that the people who suffer are actually or marginalized are the ones like the LGBT community and so forth. Maybe, I don't know.
Well,
I also really like shows where nice things happen to gay people.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're gonna do an alternative history, why not include representation for all people?
Yeah,
not just some people.
Well, it's not to say that there is no queer representation in the show. There are queer characters,
but I mean, like,
the timeline hasn't
give
changed.
them a nicer time than what they have had to deal with.
Yeah, I do think that it's interesting the way it's been dealt with in the show, because it feels unexpected. Because other things that are more socially progressive are happening. And I don't know if it's, it's wrong to say that, and that's got worse. It hasn't got worse. The attitude towards queerness is pretty much tracking along with history.
Yeah, it didn't progress at the same rate as everything else.
Which is really, but what's interesting about that is it's not being ignored. Like, key characters are gay and have to figure out how to, navigate that in the plot, and it becomes a massive plot point in season 3. So I do feel like next season we're going to see that. We're going to see that part of the history start changing as well, which is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, this kind of also, like, I'm not defending it at all in that kind of way. I just like seeing that it's not presenting the utopian version of history. Like, as in, it's not saying this timeline that we're putting on the screen isn't necessarily better than the one we have. It's just showing how changes could happen and how things could have happened and how sometimes they could have been better. But, it would have been even better had we not forgotten about this side.
Yeah, but like, another element of the queer storyline in season 3 that kind of like really annoyed me was the gender disparity within the queer storyline as well. Like, the male queer character seems to get away with a lot more than the female queer character is allowed to. And there was a lot of that stuff that just made me so mad.
Yeah. I feel like it was supposed to, though. Like, I feel like you're supposed to get
it's so
mad at
it's
those
so
things.
hard in such a giant like show to actually be successful with every kind of story that they're trying to tell. Like, I mean, there's a lot that's in season 3 that's interesting, which is what about mentorship and legacy and, children and how people are represented and, cognitive decline in older people. Like, there's a whole bunch of there's sub stories in season 3 that aren't really to the future. Or that they're in there, but it's interesting because you kind of watch them and you're like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, but that's gone. because that's not actually what we're talking about. What we're talking about is Mars.
And certainly I would love to see that, by the time we roll around into the 2000s, that is probably when the world had started to, grow and accept queer representation a lot more. Maybe that will be a payoff. And maybe that will then, put a few more queer writers on staff and hopefully give them their dues. Because when you're talking about it and you're saying the queer male character, the queer female character, it feels like it's not enough.
There's more than there's more than one. There's just that one particular storyline involving these two people, but there is a lot more representation in season 3 than in season 1 and 2, and it does, again, in the clever way that it does, cover actual historical events within the context of the new history that they're building, in terms of like don't ask, don't tell, and that kind of stuff. So again, I kind of thought it's interesting how they're handling that and weeding it through. It's probably my favorite thing about the show. Just those little things where I'm like, oh, I see what you did there. Oh, I remember that. I mean, there's a particular image at the very end of season 3 that I'll be very vague about right now. That
I just want to say, Ellen came out in the 90s, but it's not the Ellen you think.
Yeah, so thank you for that.
Sorry, Peter.
Oh, that's a beautiful crossover. And I
appreciate it anyway. So.
Thank you for the props to my girl Madison.
Oh, we all love Madison. Apart from Peter, who may have left us.
Well, my connection's really.
Yeah, she may have left this moral plane. But
how am I doing? Am I back?
You're back.
Yes.
You're still there.
Okay. There's an image at the very end of the last season that, again, like kind of everything else in the show, it is its own thing. It's something that has like only happened in this fictional world, but the imagery that they use immediately brings to mind an actual historical event that happened that same year. That is very, very famous image that just kind of goes to show that it is an alternate history, but they're running it so close to our timeline that it just, again, feels so real and like, oh, I recognize that from my history. And just for that, even though season 3 wasn't as compelling, just for that stuff, I will watch again. I will keep going.
Yeah, definitely. Like it then paying little homages or little nods to actual historical events, and I think that's quite clever in this storytelling as well.
You may not get in this version of reality a Bill Clinton, but it may be someone with a similar problem to Bill Clinton.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did also like, it came up a bit earlier in the chat there, and Quinny, it's not very much a spoiler, it's just more of a little teaser for you for season 3. The whole series has so far been really focused around American and Russian, and they're the only ones who are involved in this entire thing. And about 3/4 of the way through season 3, it takes a real big turn.
Yeah.
By adding another country into it.
Someone was first on Mars, but it's not who you think.
Yeah, but it's not who you think. Which I just...
It was Madison?
It was Madison.
That's amazing.
She was there with Wongers.
So, Wongers, what do you think of Mars?
Yeah, so like I really like that was at least, because it was, America, and I love that they changed. It's not really NASA. Well, it's NASA and corporate America, and that's in the trailer. So
Amazon.
Amazon. Yeah. NASA, Amazon, the Russians all running to get to Mars, and when they get there and they have all of their fun bullshit that they all worry about themselves, then they realize they weren't actually the first people there. And
I'm excited. I just want to see whether or not any of the stuff that happened in Red Planet plays out. Like, are there little monsters?
Yes, Val Kilmer is still on Mars. He was there. He was the first person on Mars.
Amazing.
And he was representing the island nation of Barbados. No,
I personally want the Space Force of the Jamaicans. The really cool silent runnings.
It's kind of actually, Quinny, it's kind of like that. Like it is kind of like, holy shit, you were here? How did
Hang on,
you
is it the
get here?
Wakandans? Wakanda forever.
Anyway.
Wakanda in space, anyway.
It was Matt Damon.
Hey, excellent.
He was already there growing potatoes out of his own shit.
Excellent.
But yeah, like season 3 is somewhat a weaker story.
Yeah,
and
they
also
relied so much on soap opera drama, and
Yeah.
I was just not living
I'm
for it.
very happy for Karen to stop having a storyline now.
Oh God, I hate Karen. I did not like her in season 1 because she was so anti-feminist. I did not enjoy her character arc in season 2.
I loved her arc
reasons.
because she, basically
Because it was predatory.
She made friends with an artist and discovered drugs when she was a 50s housewife. So
I
yeah,
mean, she mellowed out, but I still don't like her.
No, she's still a terrible person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like she's an awful person, but
Like when she goes around to an artist's house who's, struggling with exactly the same. I was just like, oh, get the fuck out, you horrible, horrible woman.
Oh yeah.
Let the man smoke his doob in peace.
But I loved that gender flip reversal thing of like it was all about the wives of the astronauts were always worried, and then when they've turned out they've got a husband of one of the female astronauts, and that was a nice twist of them all going, oh shit, right, we don't have ownership of this particular thing because there are men out there who are on the same page and not expected to be.
Danielle's husband too,
Yeah,
who's
absolutely.
dealing with
PTSD,
post-traumatic stress from Vietnam, and you're like, oh wow, yeah, right, okay. And I love that. I love that they're looking at all of the shit that's happening in the time and finding ways to at least explore it, question it, see how it impacts on the other people around them.
Yeah, I think like ultimately I feel like I have had enough of the Baldwins and the Stevenses now. They're kind of like, the Bushes and the Clintons or something, or even the Trumps. It's like, enough now. Your family has had enough storylines. Move on.
I don't know how we're going to introduce a new generation of people. We haven't really been building that up.
Yeah, we could if we're going to get more countries on Mars.
Quinny, can you take your headphones out for just a second? Okay, let's talk about the fucking bullshit of getting pregnant on Mars and being shot out of a MSAT to a fucking space station that's orbiting. God damn it. What kind of like pandering are they doing in season 3? Like, it's bad enough that it's like, oh, do I tell my mentor that I slept with his wife, or do I tell him that I was the one that caused the accident that almost killed him, or do we just let his pregnant daughter that's having a child with a dead Russian cosmonaut give birth on Mars? Like, fuck me, season 3 was bullshit.
It's just it's just fun. I liked it.
I hated it.
I
hated it. It was so far from like any of the science fact that we had in seasons 1 or 2. It was like it was starting to get into bullshit territory.
Sure. I know. Like,
I had a lot more questions in season 3 than I had in the other 2 seasons.
but you know what? It's kind of like the 90s. The 90s was a bunch of bullshit territory. So like thematically, I'll agree with it. Anyway, you come back now, Q.
Anyway, you can come back.
Okay.
Yeah,
I do
sorry.
have a question to ask
go
you
for
guys about the 90s.
Sure.
Does this show do the 90s better than the third X-Men movie, Apocalypse?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that
I don't even remember that being set in the 90s.
I thought
I
thought the flannel shirt tied around the waist of the astronauts was great. Like, it's a lovely nod.
Nice.
And
outside the suit.
Yeah. The grunge motif to the
and they were wearing Doc Martens.
spacesuit was
Nice.
amazing. But the rest of it, I was a bit like, But yeah, I agree. I agree, Peta Kanga. I have forgotten everything that had to do with Alien X-Men Apocalypse. What the fuck was that?
Oh, sorry.
I love that we still had like pop culture references in this show. So like the Alien movie still got made.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yep.
See, that's awesome because
Yeah,
that,
it
you
kind of
know,
blows my mind that like with the progressiveness of the space happenings in this show, they were still making sci-fi movies. Like,
Yeah.
kind of blows me away.
Interesting.
Anyway, look,
And Rob's telling me that X-Men Apocalypse was set in the 80s.
who knows?
Oh, okay. Well, who cares? It was shit anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And could go back to wherever the fuck it came from
Yeah.
because it was terrible.
The only thing set in the 90s was the animated X-Men, and that's getting a reboot. So we'll see how that goes. Does it
I'm
recapture
very
it now?
ex-
Is it weird that the 90s is now hit that sweet spot of like, oh, the 90s was amazing. It's like, oh, no. Like they've
Nope.
done the 80s now, and we're going to move into the 90s, huh?
Thanks. I thought the
Cool.
90s was cringe.
Yeah, no doubt.
Almost
Dab.
as bad as the early 2000s.
For a Jill. No doubt, no doubt.
I don't know what bussin' means, and I feel old.
I don't know. Is it what kind of busing? Is it straight busing or?
Fuck off.
Not in city at the moment because it's a whole bunch of cancelled bussing.
Oh.
Public transport is an arse.
Is they German? Is this the cancelled bussen?
Yeah. Look, I think we.
And Doc Forrest, I hate to tell you, but hypercolor should have been a thing. It was an amazing thing.
I love hypercolor.
Love me some fucking hypercolor. The only problem with hypercolor was that if you were a lady or a man of a certain size, there was always this thing where you just got weird, hot-looking tits. It was this, and you're like, maybe that's not the thing that they were going for with that.
You know what?
that
That's
technology.
They may have made a bunch of kinks from some kids looking at that, going, "Why is that? I like that. What's going on?"
Everybody held their hands on their boobs to get the hypercolor thing to change.
It's true. It's true.
So anyway, we got a sting at the end of season 3 that we are jumping into 2003 for season 4. And I did a little bit of reading, and the writers say that they want to focus more on the Russians in the next season.
Oh, good.
I'm actually intrigued by that because I think there is an entire alternate story there, which is about, the history of those who got there first. And, the whole thing could very easily be an exploration of the alternate version of this. That's a cool idea.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially because, and once again, because I'm not up to speed, I don't know whether in this one, we get the kind of dissolution of the USSR, and all that kind of stuff. So the Russia of 2003 that we know is probably very little in common with the Russia of 2003 in this version of reality.
Interesting. I'm going to let that one play out. You can have all the wild crackpot theories you want about season 2 and season 3, Quinny, but we know.
Okay, cool. Where would you like to see it go? Let's really kind of
Saturn
spitball.
and then the galaxy beyond.
Well, that's the thing. Like the writers were saying that, yes, their whole prerogative is that the seasons skip by decades. So they are going to end up overtaking our current timeline and get into a speculative future.
Oh, it's just a straight prequel to Interstellar.
Yeah, I don't know where that's going to
Just
go.
straight
It
into Matthew
feels
McConaughey.
kind of weird to me because I got so on board with it being historical, and now that it's starting to catch up, I'm losing a little bit of interest because I'm like, I don't want to see stories about my current time. Like I was digging the past stuff, so I don't know how I feel about future.
I'm not sure I'd like to be watching For All Mankind and I see, President Trump get elected. I'm like, oh God, no, that's.
Oh, please remove that from the alternative history.
Yeah.
That's not what I want here.
As Rob says, there is the moons orbiting Saturn and Jupiter and so forth. That it starts to run into the areas of 2001 or 2010. In 2010 they go to Europa, which is one of the moons of Jupiter, which is probably mostly made of water.
Yeah.
And there's also a shit sci-fi movie called the Europa Project, I think, which is great because it's just there's aliens on Europa. Ooh.
Yeah. The issue I have with that kind of stuff is that it takes so long to get there that it's not as quick as
Mm.
getting to Mars.
Yeah.
I don't really know
mean,
how it's going to play out.
I just want to,
Can't
yeah,
speculate.
yeah. It's I also love that it's all speculation. Like we're guessing too.
Mm.
We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know where they're going to go with this. I don't know where I want them to go. I just want them to have a satisfying ending.
Mm.
I just want to see some new characters next season that I like as much as the ones that I have had so far.
Yeah.
What about you, Pete? Where you have been suspiciously silent, and I'm never sure it's because your internet's dropped out, or you just.
My internet connection is being terrible, so I wasn't sure if you would hear me if I spoke. But I.
Perfect.
Well,
excellent timing.
We can hear you now.
You're back now.
This is what I've been talking. I'm like, this isn't going to work. Look, there were lots of things left hanging in this last season. So I'm kind of we're in a position where we kind of don't know if particular characters have survived certain things. So there are some fairly kind of direct cliffhangers that we're waiting to be resolved. And I'm interested, like if they do, take it 3 more decades and we kind of they pull up next to us and overtake us in our timeline. I'm kind of interested to see if the show kind of evolves from something that feels like history to something that feels like pure sci-fi and what that looks like.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the idea of seeing it catch up to us, because if the next one's 2003, so season 4 is 2003, season 5 would be 2013. So the next season would be 2025 or something like that, which would probably be about where we're at. I find the idea of showing an alternate history, but an alternate now, interesting, because you could really kind of go, okay, this is the technology we're at now. What if? I love, some of William Gibson's latest novels, which are not sci-fi. They're now-fi. They're here, but different. And I think that's cool. Oh, and Rob's saying that one of the characters has to come back as a robot or a cyborg. So, yes.
Excellent. As long as you get to see those little dogs that from Boston Dynamics with guns attached to
those
like,
things terrify me so
hopping
much.
around. Like,
I saw a new lot of those that now are out there that are on wheels.
Oh no.
cool.
So, you know what they remind me of? They remind me of the fucking Wheelers out of Return to Oz, which is one of the most terrifying things in the
those
world.
are scary. Look, when you're someone that had daydreams as a child that, haunted you of dolls coming to life in your room, the Boston Dynamics creatures absolutely shit scare me.
Have you seen that?
The one that can fucking open a door, I'm like, no.
Have you seen that one
Mm.
that's basically like a little pogo stick that can jump
Oh, the one
around
that can
and
jump?
do flips
No,
and
no,
stuff?
no, no,
and
no,
it's
no,
just
no,
kind
no,
of
no.
like, it's like a hopping Chinese demon.
Like Chinese demon, yes. I'm like,
Cool. Can't wait till they attach a gun to that one.
Well, yeah. When they put
Fucking
guns on the
guns.
fucking dog ones, I was like, oh no. Oh
Yeah.
no.
All right.
Well,
Well,
bad time.
look, before we get down to that terrifying dystopia of the future as we're trying to think it, get on to For All Mankind. It's a great series, and I look forward to see what they're doing. Apple's still considering to knock it out of the park, including with the absolute gem that is C Season 3. I can't
oh
wait
my
for you all to get
god,
onto that
let's
one.
see.
Jean-Claude Van Damme's in this
No.
season. It's amazing.
What?
What?
I just thought that
It's
would
like
make,
all your Christmases have come at once.
I thought that just may make you get into watching it if I said that Jean-Claude Van Damme's in
I
it.
was curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
hang on, wait.
No, but
Wow.
Dave Bautista is in Season 3, so...
Yeah.
okay. I mean, I like Dave Bautista, but I don't particularly need him in C.
You leave Drax alone.
He's leaving Drax alone.
Yeah,
Everyone's
yeah, they
leaving
will.
Drax alone. All right. So what's coming up? Next
Wow.
week.
Ooh, we're doing something else I still haven't started yet.
Oh no.
Oh,
Rings
excellent.
of Power.
The Hot Elf Show.
Oh, that's right.
I
Ah.
fucking hate Lord of
I'm
the Rings.
so
I
not
don't
psyched
want
for
to
that.
start. I don't want to start watching it.
Oh, yeah. It's
Really
time to
not
get into some
interested.
appendices of a book that wasn't very well written about the history of the Lord of the Rings.
and spent no dollars of their budget on costumes.
Oh, I don't know. They put a lot of money into fucking.
I think they were nitpicking
something.
a few things based on some of it, but like
There are characters wearing scale mail that is printed on Lycra t-shirts.
yes, but there are also
not actual scale mail.
hundreds of characters. Like there are like a lot of characters, not just like it's these.
Oh, this
7.
sounds exhausting.
Maybe they should pick and choose what they do.
Oh,
Yeah, but like
So it doesn't look like a steaming pile of shit.
Oh,
See, this is
it's
why
gonna get saucy.
that's what we're here for. We're like, bring your best Balrog. Then Jill, next week.
Don't know what that is.
Yeah. So okay. For clarification, Jill, you're not into Lord of the Rings at
I
all.
fucking hate it. I love The Hobbit though.
The film?
Yeah.
films?
And I love how that shit saw you Lord of the Rings fans off.
I'm so angry at Jill right now.
Yeah, and I love it. I feed on it.
I'm just gonna let it fester.
Tell
I'm
me
not
where
ang-
you're at with Lotter.
I'm not angry at Lord of the Rings. I'm just like, I'm neutral. I'm Lord of the Rings neutral, and just I can't be asked with the Rings of Power at the moment. Like I don't care enough to get into a high fantasy, long format show right now.
Yeah.
So you're trying to tell me you're also not watching House of the Dragon?
Oh my god! Don't.
Well, that's
like,
at the
I am mad
moment
at
you've
that.
got-
So let's.
Me too.
You've got incest fantasy or non-incest fantasy, but they're the same thing.
I must admit, I did message one of my friends to say, and I said, one of the most important and reoccurring things happening in Game of Thrones is back with a vengeance this week. And he said, incest? I said, incest.
Oh,
It's
come
incest.
on.
It lost like
Did they learn nothing?
House of the Dragon lost me at the start of season.
I mean, look, if
episode
we have
2.
to have one, then I will watch Rings of Power because honestly, I'm not mad at Lord of the Rings. I just don't have the energy for it right now.
Well,
The good thing is there's only 3 episodes out so far,
Yeah,
so you could,
you're gonna have to get the energy for it by next Tuesday.
or you can just Quinny it and not do the homework fully.
Yeah, when
could
am I
read
actually
the
going to
wiki.
have time to watch it, to be honest? I've got an event this weekend.
What event is that, Jill?
Oh, I will be at Crunchyroll Expo in Melbourne. Come on
Amazing.
down. It's going to be an incredible event. I'm hosting panels. I'm hosting cosplay competitions.
God.
It's going to be a good time. If you love anime, come on down.
The crunchiest of rolls.
Yes, it's at the Melbourne Exhibition Centre in South Bank. So
Amazing.
super easy to get to.
Yes,
Damn.
if you're in Melbourne, go say hello to Jill. I was going to say heckler on stage, but no, don't do that because it's a dick move.
I'll come down and I'll wallop you.
Yeah. Just
I would also like to personally thank everybody who has not voted for the Winchesters on our poll of what we're watching next month.
Yeah.
I don't know. It could work. It could work.
Not looking good.
Let's
be honest.
Look, there is a poll. Like things are up. We'll sort of stuff. But there is Lord of the Rings coming up, and then we have She-Hulk to round off the end of the month, and then we'll
Which
get
I've
up
actually realized has 9 episodes, not 6. So we'll be reviewing it prematurely.
Yeah, but that's okay.
That's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
All right.
It's giving us something fun to talk about. And then we'll be looking ahead to October, which is a busy month. There's so many things going on. There's a PAX, there's a ACACON, there is October Fest, the drinking thing. Just a lot.
There's Halloween.
There is Halloween.
There's something that I'm very excited about.
We're just
in
going to be permanently drunk all October.
There's something I'm very excited about in October, a special show called A Hard Target on Golden Pond.
Oh, yes. Tell the viewers what they're getting.
Because everyone else is just fucking off to go and do whatever else they want, going around different things. Peter and I are going to review the 2 movies, Hard Target and On Golden Pond. Guess who picked which one of each? So that will be a very special show Tuesday where we get to discuss.
I'm just going to join and just sit back
Heckle.
and
I'm
going to antagonize like Dion does when he's never done the homework.
But funnily enough, I have watched On Golden Pond.
Oh.
So it was years ago.
I'm going to need you to refresh, Dion.
I will. I guarantee
He's going to watch Hard Target.
Yeah.
She's so going to watch Hard Target. But we will get that. That's a special one. That's coming up in October.
We've also had it pointed out to us that the Werewolf by Night special will be happening in October as well, which is an interesting one. I mean, we also this week had a release of a whole bunch of trailers and stuff like that from D23.
Thank you, D23.
Mm-hmm.
So we've now seen the Thunderbolts, we've seen Werewolf by Night, we've got some ideas as to some of the series. We've seen Secret Invasion, or as I'm calling it, Tinker Tailor Soldier Scroll.
That's a good one.
Yes. Some Hocus Pocus 2, and of course 3 episodes of Andor and /Or.
Mm-hmm. And the Bad Batch season 2. Shut the fuck up, man. God, I've got everything there. There's so much out there.
I know, right?
Yeah,
It's a busy time.
It's a busy time. October will be a fun month, but let us know what you want to see. Send us a voicemail. Chuck some money at the Ko-Fi to help us keep going, because that would be amazing.
Time to start
Subscribe on
watching
Twitch.
some shit.
Make it rain, y'all.
Yes, and do all of the subbing and all of that kind of stuff, because it's all very important.
You do the subbing, we'll do the doming.
Perfect.
And I'll get to Scotland.
What? Suddenly we've become Outlander.
Well, it's a Ronald D. Moore show, so why the fuck not? Don't be anytime. Okay, Rob. Hello. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I was going to say we will try and go and raid somebody, but there ain't nobody else on at the moment. There's no Hex, there's no Barjo, there's no Jordan, and maybe we need some more suggestions of people that we could raid. But we also tend to like to raid people that we love and know.
Yes, it's true. But we've had fun. Thank you. I hope you've had fun. Thanks for listening to us talk about For All Mankind. Go and do it for all mankind.
Cannot wait to watch everything and come back and listen to this podcast.
Amazing.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
I wanna live in a world full of heroes, not sit here counting zeros in a cubicle downtown. I wanna look out my window, see 'em flying, and swing across the horizon as I cheer 'em on so proud. The powered girl keeps staring at her face, and call Colossus and have him teach me ways, and then we'd exercise. I'd be one of the guys. Martial arts from iron fist and wall, called out the